So much continues to unfold in the world of politics and governance in general here in Kenya, and it is for that reason that Siasa Brigade is here. We bring you the latest in Kenya's political landscape, and today we have a plethora of issues we want to dissect into the very same day that Kenya has hosted this year's National Prayer Breakfast, and we see a number of insightful issues therein. My name is Chege. Always a pleasure to have you on board on not just Siasa Brigade, but also Business Glide here on Herman Manyora's channel. Indeed, it is always a pleasure to have you on board. Now with me to dissect into issues that we are going to cover today is none other than East Africa's renowned public scholar and Kenya's most sought after political analyst, the first of his name, Herman Manyora. Great to see you, sir.
Those accolades are too many.
But you are a big
Just
man.
say this man from Lombe is a village man called Manyora.
No, but you are just invited the other day to attend the prayer breakfast.
No, let's continue.
Which is for the big boys.
No, I was not invited.
You are not invited?
No.
Last year you are, though.
Last year, yes.
I mean, don't you have lucky with this current regime?
Breakfast is just breakfast. I can have it in my house.
But it's only big boys who are invited there.
I'm not a big boy.
You're not a big boy?
No.
Talking matters National Prayer Breakfast, we've seen Azimio principals say they will skip the event, and indeed today they have skipped the event led by Raila Odinga. Would you say, in as much as this year's theme is reconciliation, the theme of the National Prayer Breakfast, it would have been right for Raila to have led his members to be in part of that?
My position on that thing, and that's why you saw last year when I was invited, I sent you instead.
Did you have to?
My position is simple. This is a gathering of pretenders. The people gathered there are people who have looted this country clean. The people gathered there are the people who have messed our politics. They are the worst Kenya has produced. So I don't know what prayers they are going to, who are they praying to? God does not listen to such.
That is a church in itself, the prayer breakfast.
Nobody can listen to that.
Nobody can listen to that.
A collection of thieves and rapists and murderers and
it is why they are there to reconcile and change their ways.
Wash people who don't do anything in the interest of the country.
So Raila was right not to
I had Wetangula. The theme is reconciliation.
Yeah, sure.
And Wetangula is talking about reconciliation being difficult and it's not easy, requires internal reflection. Has he done reflection? The role he has played in derailing democracy in this country by denying Azimio their rightful place to be the majority party in parliament, which, by the way, it wouldn't have lasted even 3 months.
It wouldn't?
No. The people had already left. It was just a formality. But Wetangula and his people didn't have even the patience to wait for a month or two for these guys to leave officially. And then the official opposition, and then the majority goes their way. This kind of people, God can't listen to them.
But don't you think it makes Raila...
If there is a God, because we can't even be sure, if there is a God, he can't listen to them.
He can't
no, he can't. Not these ones. The ones in... Where are they? Wherever they are gathered.
Yeah, sure.
Wherever they have been, nobody can listen to them.
Nobody can listen to them.
Forget about it.
But don't you think it just shows...
They stand in the way of progress. They are responsible for Kenyan children dying before the age of 5. Child mortality rate. They are responsible for people living animal lives in Kibra and Kawangwara and Madare. The people gathered there are the people who are making our children go to schools in the manner people went to schools in the 18th century. Those are the people gathered there. They are responsible for every theft that has taken place in this country.
Maybe it is...
They have plundered the resources of this country, denying this country an opportunity to move forward and join the League of Nations. No, God can't listen to them. But
maybe it's from today's gathering that they will change their ways.
No, they have been there before.
This is a new regime.
It's not the first time they have been there. All these people have been there.
They have been there.
So,
but don't you think from the side of Raila Odinga, it just shows how much he has been unable to put his team together? We've seen a number of Azimio allied legislators going there as individuals, yet they will have heeded the call of their party leader and absconded.
You know, politics in this country, we are still far. But until we get our act together, this country will continue to be a poor, dirty third world country. But I also hasten to caution leaders in this country, and I've done this repeatedly. We are a courting disaster. And when it happens, everybody will just say, what was my role in bringing this disaster to the country? There's going to be disaster in this country.
Are you selling fear to the public?
It's not fear, the truth. History can bear me out.
Years on end, you've been...
You know the cost of sugar now?
And it's set to go up.
It's set to go up. You know the maize flour, they were saying 159. I've been in the supermarket. Maize flour is flying those sizes of to hit 300 perhaps. Do you know the dollar to the shilling to the dollar? Things are getting worse by the day. And you can never know outside forces. I've said, you know, there can also be outside forces. Supposing the dollar became internationally mad. Supposing crude oil prices do what they did 5 years ago, 3, 4, 5 years ago, what will we be?
Runaway
If crude oil prices just go up, pop, the way sometimes do, periodically they do, in the midst of all this, do you think we shall survive as a country? People will not know those things are responsible. International factors are responsible. There will be hungry people, hungry, willing to eat anything and anybody in their way.
It is more of measures to be said, not prayers. The country needs measures.
Those people don't need to sit there to pray. God does not listen to fools.
You've seen the marvelous saying.
You heard what Museveni says. God does not have time for stupid people. And I agree with Museveni.
You really do?
They say you can't ask God for a table. And he has given you trees and the brain to get timber from there and make a table. How can you ask God for a table? You don't go and pray. You come up with intervention measures to end the misery in this country. Which misery shall lead to a revolution? And which revolution shall consume all of us?
It shall consume all of us.
At the end of which it will take us 50, 70 years to rebuild the country.
Might be too late to make amends.
Yeah. You don't go and pray. You put measures in place. You ask yourself, what can you do to ease the pain of living to Kenyans? You look at the cost of fuel. You say, we can move this tax, you can move this tax. Mafuta inakuja 130. Maybe you don't go to pray.
Maybe it's...
Why are you praying instead of removing those unreasonable taxes on your electricity bill?
The finance bill
on petrol, on diesel.
The finance bill of 2023, should it sail through? Maybe in the...
Why would it? Why? You don't pray. You ask yourself, when we add VAT on fuel.
Petroleum products.
Petroleum products. What does that happen? What happens? Two things.
Cost of production.
Two things happen. Everything goes up. Everything goes
up.
Everybody's affected in one way or the other. Some people directly. Businesses are affected to the point they may sack some people because you have added VAT or because you are charging VAT. The other thing you look at is this: how much money are you raising?
Is it enough?
Is it commensurate with the trouble you are causing? Or you are listening to IMF. You don't go and pray. You sit down with IMF and tell them, look here, this VAT is going to cause havoc, yet we shall only raise 25 billion. It's not worth the chaos it will cause.
The ripple effect.
The ripple effect. It will cause chaos, it will wreak havoc in the country. And yet we shall only collect 50 billion or 25 billion. Is it worth it? The answer is no. So you are doing it to please a third party who doesn't care what your people are going through.
Who doesn't care.
You don't go and pray. You take measures.
And hit the ground running.
You hit the ground running. Don't go and pray.
Or sing like Sylvana Sosoro.
No.
God, the choir master.
God does not listen to fools. No, he doesn't. He doesn't. My understanding of religion. No, it doesn't. I agree with Museveni.
You agree with Museveni?
Yeah. There are things you do. And I'm not talking about the president. I'm talking about this leadership. All those MPs gathered there have violated the constitution by forcing government, which was happy anyway, so that they can be put in the pocket. They're all taking CDF. It's unconstitutional. Declared by the High Court, Appeal Court, and Supreme Court. But they are happily receiving that money and they are going to pray.
Which prayers then?
That money is about 40-something billion. Is all you need not to charge VAT on fuel.
There are some quarters that believe there is no integrity in this year's National Prayer Breakfast, and it is deemed as an event whereby the president is trying to marshal people, all legislators from both sides, to support his finance bill of 2023. And let's start from Kenya Kwanza camp. We've seen people like Gathoni Wamshomba say that they oppose many provisions of the financial bill of 2023, starting from the housing levy. And some consider Wamshomba as someone who is trying to defect from Kenya Kwanza and somewhat disloyal to the president. Where do we draw the line when it comes to loyalty and actually being there for the interest of the people?
Some of these people are just being populist. They are looking at the next election. They're just being populist. That's why she left Uhuru and went to Ruto. It's just being the survival and populist. It's nothing. I don't believe she has the depth required. Because unless we have leaders of a certain depth, this country will remain what it is. It will get worse. And will break and lose everything we have had. We want leaders of depth. When Wetangula talks of self-reflection, has he done that himself? Does he know how his moves in parliament, have affected democracy and the rule of law?
But maybe...
And the constitutionalism. Yeah. So self-reflection is just words coming from his mouth. The leaders we have are shallow, they are empty, they have no depth.
But do you think Esther Passaris has
That's why I sympathize with Raila. I think even when you see him almost giving up, making mistakes, being erratic, he's surrounded by people who don't have any substance.
Are you trying to signal that people like Esther Passaris who say that it is high time Azimio goes less on combative attacks to the government in terms of the support towards the financial bill of 23, that you find also Passaris to have been disloyal to Raila Odinga and all that?
No, you see, it depends on whether she has depth. What is she saying?
The housing levy should see the light of day. It's going to bring dignity to
I must quickly separate what is populist and what is serious thought. You're just trying to be nice to the other side. But then Kenyan politicians, I know politicians are prostitutes, but our prostitutes are worse. Because you need some honor, some self-respect. The way Raila has held Passaris' hand, if she were to betray Raila like the other people have done, it's just a waste of time. When she's been going to winning elections, her Kikuyus were not voting for her. It was Raila's people, and she's not the only one. I'm not saying she has no right to support the housing bill. I have no problem with it myself. I've said the finance bill should pass. But I've also said, if she was talking like me, saying, since the president is too determined, you won't stop him, and he has the numbers. What would be a better approach from Raila's side? I've thought, if you are to focus on zero in on specifics and have amendments passed through, that would be a more beneficial way of opposing this thing than just opposing for the sake of opposing. For example, teachers. Before this nonsense of delocalization, which I don't know who came with, one of these, either Matiang'i,
think tanks, yeah.
I think it is Magoha or somebody, one of those, Magoha, saying teachers should not work in their localities, whatever reason, and that is basically foolish reason. The salaries teachers earn, if you are to force them to leave their homes and work elsewhere, they will leave teaching. Nobody will be a teacher.
In this country?
The money is too little. Teachers earn what they earn and continue working because they are working from their homes. So if people are making serious observation about the housing levy, Raila should be saying, okay, we can close one eye and it can pass. But why do you want teachers to pay? Teachers are poorly paid, number one. They make so much sacrifices, yet they are poorly paid. Teachers will operate from their homes. They have their own abodes, whether you can call them good houses or what. Teachers don't need your houses. At least that category of people should be exempted. That's how I want these people to think and to reason. Teachers should be exempted from this house because they work from home. They work from their houses. They don't need other houses. A teacher from Lombe does not need a house in Nairobi. They are settled there. Their children will get houses. Mombasa, Dubai, New York, their children and grandchildren. But the teacher in Lombe is happy where he is living. Hata kama ni nyumba semi permanent yake. Hataki nyumba hiyo nyumba yako. So we would have gone that way. We would also have said, surely a person earning below 30 or 40,000, they will never save enough money for a house.
True.
Let them be part of the other non-working Kenyans who will benefit from the fund. Let them be exempted. Anybody earning below 30, let them be exempted. For good reason. If you get 30,000, you pay 900 shillings. At what point will that money amount to a house? So we join wale hawana mshahara, wale wafanyi kazi, ka ungoje.
And grandchildren.
No, wow. You know, benefits must be immediate or near immediate. Let's not go into the story. You're an economist, you know. If you take a loan, a country takes a loan, it must be thinking of those who are enjoying what the loan is doing, vis-a-vis those who will pay. You cannot enjoy loans today for your children to pay. Neither should you over sacrifice. So that balance, you are the economist.
Yeah, true.
So
an equilibrium.
Another thing about housing levy, which they would have been prosecuting. You know me, I'm going to pay 2,500. That's the maximum. Why?
Why?
The 3% should apply up to my last cent, so that I pay, maybe I'm a poorly paid person. Maybe I'll pay 7,000 or 8,000. Why are you reaching on people like us who should be paying more? Unakata. Na unakata mtu maskini
setting a ceiling.
Why are you ceiling? The ceiling should apply to the employer, because the employer is feeling the pain.
Sure.
We should say, if we stick with the 3%, let it apply for anybody who earns beyond 50,000. Number one, with no limit. Let the employer top up 2%, up to a maximum of 2,000. You see, that makes sense.
True.
But he has to oppose for the sake of opposing, to push like the government is pushing without listening, as if they are deaf, as if they don't have brains. The other side is opposing for the sake of opposing. Yet there are good things we can calibrate this thing until it makes sense. Of course, if you look at it from a bigger perspective, it doesn't make sense.
It doesn't.
But then the Azimio side will not push that big idea I can push myself, whether that's the way to go, because they also had it. So let's stick with it as a good thing that requires a real look at certain provisions.
Very well.
Yeah.
Someone just told me this morning that probably it's high time we redirect the funds allocated for the National Prayer Breakfast and probably get it to mitigating drought and all that. Do you support that?
I don't know how much they are spending. I know they will always spend money whatever these big boys are. But what I hate is the pretense.
Reconciliation. The country needs that.
The gathering of pretenders. It's so irritating.
Even with angelic singing from the
people who are messing the country, people who are stealing from the country, people who are breaking the laws of the country, people who are killing democracy, people who are killing constitutionalism, are gathered in a national prayer meeting.
The church is there for sinners.
That hypocrisy, they will be punished by God. Those people gathered for that prayer means breakfast prayer. When they meet their maker, wakati wataenda mbele ya haki, mbele ya hukumu,
but give credit so it's
watachapwa, wataona mijeledi. You are stealing from your country and you are pretending you are praying. Ingia kwa moto pale jana.
But you have to agree that
you are messing democracy and you are trying to pretend you are praying. Ingia pita hii gate. Chop. Take your seat there kwa moto.
But did you hear the angelic singing from the parliamentary choir led by Dancer Mugatana?
Those are pretenders.
Silvana Sosoro on the keyboard.
Look at Parliament. Look at how extravagant Parliament is. Just look at how extravagant Parliament is in a poor, dirty third world country. Look at the extravagance of Parliament. Look at what the Parliamentary Service Commission does. Look at there's a year they were allocated more money than universities were allocated. I don't know whether that has changed. Parliament.
To improve quality of legislation.
Look at the allowances they get. Look at the travel. In a poor, dirty third world country where people are dying from diarrhea. Diarrhea. You diarrhea until you die. Where people are dying from hunger. You become hungry until you die. And your guys are now on a major breakfast in Monaco TV. They will never see heaven.
I was there last
People
year.
gathered there. They will never see heaven. They let it take it from Manyora. None of them will go to heaven.
None?
God will ask them, where were you when my people were suffering?
Bishop Dorcas is watching.
Where were you when my people were suffering? They will be asked in the gate. Those who are Christians, St. Peter. Simama kwanza, where were you when my children were dying of hunger in Kenya? Where were you? Where were you when people were living in Kibra, Madare, Korogosho? Where were you? Where were you when children were going to school barefoot, learning under trees? Where were you? What were you doing with CDF money?
Prayers have brought miracles. Those ones,
no. This one, there's no miracle. Miracles ended with mitume. These are crooks. These are crooks.
Bishop Dorcas Gachagua is
I'm not talking
say
of,
that.
have I mentioned anybody?
You haven't been.
Have I mentioned anybody?
You're talking badly of the church.
Nobody can listen to them. God cannot listen to those people. None of them. They are billionaires in a country where people are dying from hunger and from diarrhea. You cannot be a billionaire in a country where people are dying from diarrhea and hunger.
Depending on.
And yet your billions have been stolen from the public. I've challenged billionaires in this country to come and sit where you are seated and tell the public where they got their billions. I've been lucky to to get two people who have explained
We
to
shall
me.
invite Mudavadi. He's a billionaire.
No, let's not mention names. I've talked to Tujo here. He convinced me he made his money. Yeah, people like Chandaria and a few others. I'm not saying all of them, but one or two. So they can't now. You can't come to me and say you said all of us, because I've made allowances for some. Even in that prayer meeting, there are a few whose cries will be heard by God. They are genuine from their heart.
But majority.
One or so now, if you come for me and say you could be one of the few, I said.
Very well, there you have it from Herman Manyora, nuggets of wisdom on how better we can govern this country. And of course, a message to our legislators who today have been gathered there attending to the National Prayer Breakfast. There is more that needs to be done just beyond the prayers. That is a message from him. Until next time on Siasa Brigade, I'm yours truly, Richard Mwanjo. Indeed, always a pleasure to have you on board.